Welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday Creator Convos. I'm Noelle Marshall, and together with my husband, Bob Warner, who you'll meet later, perhaps with our dog Magi, who is very noisy at the moment, we call ourselves Light Partners. We don't call ourselves light workers because we say we don't like to work, but we do like to lift up the light. And together, Bob and I we are kind of like the mom and pop of the Co-Creators Convergence. And everyone is welcome to be a part of this group. There's no admission fee, just join in. And every Thursday night, we have spectacular conversations with movers and shakers. And I'm so delighted who we have tonight. And before we begin, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Co-Creators Convergence. And to make it a little more efficient, I'm just going to do a little screen share here and tell you all about it. So hold on one moment. So I have met Olivia Cheever before. We're in a morning meditation group, and she is bringing to us tonight her colleague, Elizabeth Valentine. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Olivia in a moment, but right now what I'd like to do is just bring us into the centering with a very beautiful 2-minute meditation with sound and music. So let me.
As we open this virtual space, let's connect and be present with each other. Let's get to know each other with kindness and gentleness. Let's listen to each other with generosity in our hearts. Let's learn from each other with curiosity and wonder. We are a part of nature. We are a part of Earth. We are a part of life. May we use our time together to add to peace and truth and goodness in the world.
So welcome everyone. I think that was a perfect opening, as our conversation tonight is one way to embody peace. So I'm very excited. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about my dear friend Olivia. I don't know, there's just so many wonderful things to say about her. She's so accomplished. But it's kind of like, how do you fit this all in? But she is a very actively, she had a whole career teaching embodiment through somatically based Feldenkrais method. And she's done courses in the Academy of Lesley University and Lungi School of Music, Bard College in Cambridge. She is also an embodied leadership coach. And she's trained with Aikido Sensei Wendy Palmer. And she's also been involved with peace and reconciliation work through her involvement with Sun Ray Village. And we're going to learn more about that. And I believe her colleague, Elizabeth Valentine, that they have much in common in terms of their training and their connection to the Sun Ray Village. So without any further ado, I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to ask everyone to stay muted and to keep your videos off. Comments are welcome at any time. And also we will have open time for discussion at the end, whenever our guests invite us in. So with no further ado, let's enjoy this beautiful evening, peaceful evening. So lovely to have you both here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noelle. It's wonderful to be here with you and Bob and Magi. And I just am so delighted to have you join us, Elizabeth. You've heard me talk a lot about these Thursday nights, and you came a year ago when I was presenting. And Elizabeth is a very accomplished somatic practitioner that I've known for many years. We've practiced together and we've been friends, and we're now teaching partners. And she has been engaged in a long career teaching embodiment through somatically based hands-on movement education and energetics as a consultant coach in the Unitarian Universalist leadership arena. She teaches how to embody peace through an integration of leadership embodiment coaching practice, as well as principles from the social justice program of the UU Church and her extensive multidisciplinary experience. It's really a joy to do this work with Elizabeth, and we're going to really jump right into helping you experience, and we invite you to be curious about what does it mean to embody peace. And I'm going to lead you through a couple of reflections and experiences to help us kind of get in touch with that. So it's not just in our head, but also in our bodies, hopefully. And then Elizabeth is going to lead us through some simulations that are going to allow us to experience the contrast between when we feel peaceful and when we don't. And what do we do about that? So take a moment and just be curious about what do you notice when you embody peace? And by that, we mean, what do you notice in your body when you feel peaceful? And then what do you notice in your body when you feel unpeaceful? Just take a moment and bring that into your awareness. And then another question, what do you notice when you're feeling peaceful in relation to the environment around you? And what do you notice when you don't feel peaceful in relation to the environment around you? Sometimes Elizabeth and I have found, as we've been exploring this work ourselves, that it's almost easier to know what it feels like not to be peaceful these days. And part of that is due to the fact that our brain is wired to be on the alert for danger all the time, because we wouldn't have evolved to where we are today. We wouldn't have survived saber-toothed tigers and those kinds of predators if we hadn't been able to really detect the slightest change in our environment that our brain would interpret as danger. And from that, we developed our fight, flight, free response, our stress response, which floods our system with hormones like cortisol. And unfortunately, when that happens, stress makes us stupid. We don't use the best part of our brain. So what can we do about that? I want to leave that for a moment. We'll come back to it, but I want to say that one of the people that has helped me the most in my life, besides Wendy Palmer, whom Elizabeth is going to tell you more about, our teacher, has been Venerable Dahani Wahu, who is the founder of the Sunray Peace Village, and Sandy Sheridan is going to tell you more about that next week. But the other person is a wonderful member of our community at the Peace Village and a global peace builder named Louise Diamond, Dr. Louise Diamond. And unfortunately, she is no longer with us, but she's left a wonderful legacy. And one of the things that she taught me when I did a training with her was a very simple exercise that she would use when she would go into war-torn countries, and she would be dealing with different factions, and she would try to bring people together through an experience. So if you would like to try it out, I'm going to show you what it was that she taught us and what she said really helped her get her, shall we say, people who weren't agreeing with each other from different countries and who were in strife, when she would bring them together into different dialoguing groups, she would play the game with them, sort of like one potato, two potato. And if you want, you can either stand up or you can sit down and do it, but you're going to make a fist like this, and then put one fist on top of the other. And then just very gently, slowly start to put more pressure from the upper fist onto the lower fist. And notice what happens to the lower fist. And notice also what happens to your body. And by the way, notice what happens to your breathing. And let that go. And now let's try it with the other one. So whichever one you put on top, put on the bottom. And once again, let that top fist really dominate, pushing down on your lower fist. And notice what happens to the lower fist. And then let that go. Now, how many of you noticed something happen in your body? Did anybody? I'll call it Elizabeth. Thank you. What did you notice?
I turned into my core and froze. I did notice my underhand pushing back up to compensate, and my jaw clamped down and I kind of went blind. Everything locked down. Yeah. Did anyone else notice anything in their body when they had the top fist pushing down? What did the lower fist do? Anybody else? Turn on your screen if you want to share.
It went down, and it also made my whole back tense up.
Aha.
My
Did
shoulder.
anybody, and your shoulders?
Yeah.
And did it do it also with the other fist when you changed fists?
When I changed fists, I was trying harder to push up, but it
Aha.
still made me very tense in my my upper arms and my shoulders.
Well, it's interesting that both you and Elizabeth were talking about getting very tense, and also Elizabeth, you were mentioning narrowing, like narrowing your focus and shutting in on yourself. That's what happens when we're under stress. We narrow, we tighten, and we create a boundary. It's like we shut ourselves off. And we also try to push back, right? Did anybody find that their fist just
Olivia?
didn't care and just went out?
Olivia, Pamela says the lower fist resisted and pushed back. Everything became tense and uncomfortable. And I wrote, it just felt really good to let go.
Okay, great. So one of the things that we find is that we have different reactions to stress. And this is a good way to find out what your reaction is. Elizabeth is going to lead us through some simulations from our leadership embodiment process. And so we can experience these contrasts. And hopefully tonight you will leave with more resources in your toolkit so you can know what to do when you're under pressure or under stress and feeling less peaceful. Elizabeth, will you lead us?
Absolutely. First, I'd like to thank you, Olivia. That was lovely, and Noelle and Bob for including us in on this conversation and to be with all of you tonight. This is wonderful to experiment and play together in the contrast of tension and relaxation, exploring everything Olivia just showed us through this beautiful Louise exercise. So let's all imagine something real life, maybe today, yesterday, that you lost. Maybe your set of keys, maybe your wallet, maybe a bill you needed to pay. And just let yourself go there. Now I'm going to be sitting, Olivia's going to stand as she does this. So if you want to get a sense of her whole body as she's going through the contrast, just to give yourself permission to do that in your body, it's great. But notice, just close, cross your arms. Shoulders can go up around your ears, cross your legs. You can turn away. Count to 8 and bring back this memory into your body. You've lost something and you're really feeling it. Okay, that's enough. We probably all got there in 2 seconds. Now let's open our arms out, turn them out to the front of you, drop your shoulders down. Inhale up to the top of your head. Exhale down the front of your torso. Letting your breath root you right into molten earth, into the center of the earth. Inhale back up. Exhale. Following a kind of internal movement of spiral, vertical breath rooting you down into the earth. Inhale again. Really letting your breath clear and cleanse the tension. Exhale down the front of your torso in that spiral move and root your breath into the earth. One more time. Uplift. Exhale. Soften and settle. Now bring to mind someone, something that makes you smile. And let the corners of your mouth really turn up. And feel it in your body. Feel the smile. And now imagine that you're just pushing your personal bubble out to the space in front of you, the 4 corners of your room, to the sides, behind you, above your head, and beneath your feet. Rotate your awareness around this energy bubble and bring it to a balance. Allowing your jaws and shoulders really to melt down into gravity. Asking ourselves, what if I had a little more calm in my being right now? What would that feel like? Nice. And bring back the memory of losing this important object, your keys, whatever came to your mind. Notice now how you respond to having lost it. Is it similar or different? Notice the quality of your body. Take you through 2 more times and then check in to see how you notice, if you notice the contrast of this process. The next memory I'd love for you to bring back is any internal struggle that you might be having inside yourself, a frustration, a high expectation, a judgment, a criticism. Bring that to your mind. Let your body respond to that tension, whether you lock down, whether you turn and withdraw, whether you drop your head, just allow your body to go into that for 8 seconds. Now shifting out, sitting on your sits bones in your seat, letting your feet really feeling the flat of them on the floor. If you're standing, turn your arms out, even if you're sitting. And inhale, up, exhale, down your spine and down your torso, letting your breath spiral into the center of the earth. Inhale, back up, feeling the uplift. Exhale. Anchoring yourself into the ground. One more time. Thinking of someone or something that makes you smile. Letting that fullness of smile and joy fill your torso, your whole body. Bring that to the outer edges of your body and into the front, the sides, the back, above and below of your body. Extend that energetic bubble all the way to the outer edges of your room. Allowing the jaws and the shoulders to drop, to melt in gravity. And ask yourself, what if I had a little more generosity towards myself? What would that feel like? Notice the sensations. Notice your breath. Notice your felt sense. Notice that this is an intention you call on. Now, bring back the memory of a kind of loop that you might get into with yourself. And notice from this place of center, how do you respond? Now we'd like to ask you to bring back the memory of a conflict, a disagreement you've had with a friend, a colleague, inside your community, of a disagreement. And notice again how you physically respond to that conflict. Now shift, arms out, stand or sit upright. We're shifting our posture and shifting our attention to our breath. Inhale up, feel the uplift. Exhale, spiral breath, rooting you into the ground. Inhale back up. Exhale. One more time. Thinking of someone, something that makes you smile. Letting that fill you from inside, bringing that out to the front of you, off of your body, to the sides of you, off of your body, and behind you, off of your body, above your head and beneath your feet, extending your bubble all the way out to four corners of the room. Asking yourself, what if I felt a little more curiosity? What would that feel like? And bringing yourself back to the memory of the disagreement with one person, a group of people, or inside your community. Notice how you respond from a felt sense now, how your body responds now. And taking your time to unmute yourself and speaking, if you would like to, in any simple way, to what you noticed was a contrast or your experience of any one of those three simulation exercises. We'd love to hear from you.
So anyone is welcome to unmute yourselves and turn on your video if you like. I will turn mine on. And I was just thinking of and putting a few things in the chat. That when you go through this process, it gives you more time to respond versus react. Gets you out of that, jerk kind of like, yeah, I gotta tell them.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And when people, talk about peace and, let's be peaceful, or, we want peace or something like that. No, I've never had anybody really instruct me how to feel the peace. Not that I don't ever feel peaceful, but it's just really nice to have the tools. But my major thing would be like, how do I remember that when I'm in that moment?
Right. Right. So it's that big P for practice. The more we notice the contrast between when we are reactive versus when we're responsive. And the more we just catch ourselves and then come back to the responsiveness, the more we actually build that muscle to center and build the capacity to remember. Plus writing little stickers and putting them on your fridge or on your forehead.
I'll add them to the collection.
There we go.
And
that's great.
Pamela's being shy, but she says this process seems to counteract old patterns that no longer serve us.
Yes. Yes. And just the fact, Pam, that you're noticing the pattern. And I think one of the beauties of this practice that Olivia and I both have been doing since for me, it's 2010. And for Olivia, I'm not quite sure, but it's been about every day, just a little bit every day, becoming more aware of, oh, there I go, kind of asserting myself a little too aggressively, or there I go, shutting down and locking down and not finding my ability to speak up, or there I go, interrupting her again and not listening deeply. So more we notice the pattern, the more we really have this choice inside our body, that when we shift our posture and our attention to this 4-part centering, we can actually really continue to do that. So thank you, both of you, for
Pamela had
bring that
another
up.
comment. She said, amazing how body positions change how we feel.
Right.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
really is amazing.
It works just as well whether you're sitting or standing.
Yes, it
Mhm.
does. Uh-huh.
Definitely.
I did have another question. I
Okay.
guess
Go for it.
I guess I need all the help I can get. Why am I turning the hands forward?
Good question, because, well, notice your felt sense when you turn them back. And now turn them forward. Those are actually, in this, it has to do with using our extensor muscles. And so our extensor muscles are a part of the parasympathetic, as Olivia was speaking about before, with the brain. So when we're in a reactive state, we tend to use our contractor muscles. When we exhale, we're accessing our parasympathetics. We turn our arms out, open them up to the sky or out in front of the room, and we're accessing the part of the brain that creates calm. And that calm really helps and equals peace. So the more we can draw on that word, what if I feel a little more calm, and we match it with our arms turning forward, and we match it with our exhale, then we're actually creating it.
And Pamela also pops in here and says, it opens the heart chakra.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
it does. It opens the heart chakra. And it also, have any of you else noticed what else it opens up besides the heart chakra? No, it unifies through this breathing up the spine and down the spine. It unifies our head, our heart, and our core. So if you put your hand on your belly button, we
Mhm.
become more unified when we're centered.
Okay.
So we're open to our mind and discernment. We're open to our heart and compassion, and we're more open in our core to resilience and strength.
I got to practice this some more. And Flo would like to know, she said, did I miss the name of this practice?
Yes. No, you didn't miss it. We didn't say it. No, you didn't.
Is
No,
it a
Flo, you've
secret?
done nothing wrong. This practice is called 4-part centering, and it's a contrast, as Olivia was saying, between being responsive, which is centering, and reactive state, which in this work we call personality. So it's, as Pam was saying before, when we're in personality or we're restrictive and using our contractor muscles, we're reactive. And when we shift to center, we do the 4-part centering and we become more responsive.
Hmm. Well, I just got to practice that because we're traveling. We just checked into a hotel room about an hour ago, got everything set up. And somebody came to the door and opened our door. They were also assigned to this room.
Oh, wow.
So tell us, what was your react? Did you react, or how did you respond?
I grabbed the dog.
That's really funny.
So then they called to apologize. So I'm sorry for the background
did.
noise. But yeah, so anyone else, you're welcome to jump in here. And Olivia, I'm going to turn it over to you to, you can monitor the chat and bring folks in. But
Great.
yeah, so
Yeah.
this is really wonderful. And
Thank
I'm going to turn off my video and I'm going to practice this.
Okay.
Good.
We were going to take you through one more of these simulation exercises and check in again. So before I do that, would anyone like to comment? Okay, great tool. Did I miss the name of this practice? 4-part centering, right?
So I just wanted to emphasize the point that you're talking about practice. I know in my own life, it's the practice on a daily basis that allows me to do it real time through the new day. I mean, living into the new story really requires the kind of centering that you're teaching people to do.
Right.
And I just happened to be lucky because 25 years ago, I went to my internist complaining of stomach problems. And she said, I'm going to give you a prescription for that. But really what you need to do is come to my meditation class. I'll be there Monday night. So, that was the beginning of my meditative practice. And really, I don't see how I could have survived my life without it. So I just wanted to emphasize that these practices they really bear fruit, that they really do take practice. It isn't something you can pull out when you're angry and suddenly you're able to always calm yourself down like you want. So I just wanted to echo what you were describing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you,
that,
Stephanie.
that you listened to your body and that your doctor was, engaged on this level is really wonderful.
I
So,
wanted to just ask if I might, Elizabeth,
Yeah.
what, did anybody think of something where you noticed that what your reaction had on other people? Elizabeth was asking you about when you were in a group or something. Did anybody think about, a situation where you were uptight and so that affected the group in a certain way? And then when you calmed, it changed or anything like that? I'm just curious if anybody can think of a situation like that. When you were stimulating, when you were imagining, or if you were remembering something. Because I can share an experience
can
that
I.
happened
Yeah.
with me.
Great.
When I was training really hard to practice, Noelle, these practices, Elizabeth and I were training with Wendy Palmer and her daughter, Tavani, and they had us practicing between bouts. They would come from California, and we had to then really perform and show that we'd really done the practices. So I was practicing up to beat the band. I was teaching it to my music students at Langy. I was teaching it to Leslie. I was teaching it to the, policemen that stopped me when I was on the road in New Hampshire for speeding. So what happened was this is what I'm curious about, because I really had this experience where I was very intimidated when I was stopped in a back road by a policeman in New Hampshire at night. I had 2 other people in the car with me, but it was very intimidating because he was very muscular and he sort of leaned over me, and he had his big light on and everything with all the colors and the siren. And it was very disturbing. And because I'd been practicing, Noelle and Stephanie, particularly what you're pointing toward, I automatically went into centering. And while he was looking me up to make sure I wasn't an escaped murderer or something, I just centered. And what I did was I emanated the feeling of compassion, because I felt, this guy probably, it's late, he probably wants to go home to his family. And I felt compassion for him. And what was really interesting was when he came back, his whole manner had changed, and he didn't give me a ticket. But one of the things that we learned with this process of centering is that we can cultivate different qualities. And in that case, I was cultivating compassion. And it really made a difference. So Elizabeth was having us cultivate calm, and she was having us cultivate different qualities. Did anyone notice a difference in the way your body responded when you were using a different quality? I'm just curious.
I think my
Oh,
body,
I guess I just I didn't try different qualities. I didn't.
Okay.
I really didn't know. I was just doing the piece. But
Okay.
usually what happens to me is my face gives it all away when I'm in a group, and that it's like a billboard or something.
Yeah.
But I think there's some more comments there.
And Flo,
Yes, I think Flo.
You were going to say something. Yeah.
I was going to say that I had an unexpected fight with somebody, not fight, an argument with somebody that I knew. And it was so awkward because I didn't want to argue, and I could see that she was very angry so I kind of calmed down, and at that point, I wasn't using what you have. But if I had, maybe I could have flipped it for her too, because I was able to flip it for
Exactly.
me and get past it. But she didn't get past it. And we were on a road trip and it was very uncomfortable. She
Oh.
put on earplugs, not headphones, but earplugs. So
Mm,
there was no discussion.
Yeah.
right.
I'm-
So
I'm-
that's such a great example, Flo,
Yeah.
because it's painful to be in it. And
It
to
was
answer
very
your
painful.
answer your question, a lot of you, as you're talking about practice, my partner, husband, one of the very things that I've noticed is when I decide not to bite. So I change my physical stance. I turn my arms out. I pause. I smile. And I extend this, what we call a peripersonal space that the brain tracks, or a personal space bubble. And we're literally, I think a couple of other other mentioned this, but you're bathing the person you're with a kind of energetic shift. And yes, they do feel it.
Yeah.
They do feel it. And so what's really curious and wonderful to participate, the more you practice this, is that there is a felt difference for others that allows them to automatically become a little more unified and pause and respond differently. And this is, and similar to what Olivia just shared with the policeman, that, there was a felt sense for him, obviously, because his response was so different. So I definitely know from my own experience that it does shift the conversation. And I wanted to just respond to, I think it's Pamela making a wonderful point about the 21 practices. And I know from the research that MIT has done, I think that the more, if we did meditation for at least 21 days, I'm sorry, for 21 minutes, we're beginning to change the gray matter, and we're actually beginning to change the volume, the shape of our brain. And so the same with just shifting our posture and shifting our attention. And like meditation, taking our attention off the reaction and onto the breath and onto the 4-part centering is rewiring the brain. So thank you, Pamela, for bringing.
Yes.
Yes,
I was just
Pamela.
going to say that when we have these deep grooves in our
Yeah.
brain,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
and that we just automatically react
Yeah.
and respond in certain ways that are not always, advantageous.
Right.
And it takes conscious effort. And I do think that the more we become aware of it, and sometimes we don't even know what we're doing, we don't
Right.
have all the proprioception, so that we don't see how we are standing or what our posture or what our positions are. And sometimes when we need someone to say, I notice this, to bring it to our awareness and to help us. And that can be a part of being in partnership with somebody whose
Yes.
best interest is for our own highest good too. So I have found that to be very helpful.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I know Olivia and I want to invite you all to join us if you want to in our December class, where we take a deeper dive into exactly what you're speaking of, where we actually work with partners. It's more challenging online, but we go into breakout rooms and we do dialogues in this way, where we actually center and we work with partners, and we get to see each other in a reactive state and in a centered state. And we actually can have this one-on-one simulation experience of shifting. And so we'd love to extend this to you all as a way to really take a deep dive into what Pamela is talking about, actually. Olivia?
Can I
Yeah.
jump in here? I
Yeah.
just want to say, I put it in the chat and you can go to sunray.org and we have
Great.
our announcement there and registration. But one of the things that we do is we really invite you to bring your life situations so that you can, I was thinking of you, Flo. And I'd like to share my own two experiences I had in the last week when I was so grateful that I knew how to use this. Oh, Bonnie Lee Michelson said it the way
I just let her in, yeah.
her.
Yeah, I
Great.
just did. Yeah.
So when I was driving back from Maine with my husband after a beautiful weekend with our granddaughters for the very first time since COVID began in person, all of a sudden, I noticed something that my husband had done, and I went from 0 to 60 on the scale of anger. I was in the car and I went like this. I looked away. I didn't want to see him. He was driving over here. And then I remembered, and this is where, Pamela, you're right on. I remembered, okay, practice what you preach. So I did what Elizabeth had been leading us through. And I could feel how, first my husband was like this because he could feel my anger, next to me. And then as I softened, he softened. And we didn't even come into an argument. I said, I don't want to talk about this because he knew I was really angry. I mean, I haven't been that angry in a long time. It was stupid, but it you know how you get triggered. But the other thing is that because I had this practice and because I've been practicing it a lot with what's been going on lately, particularly with the news. I don't know if anybody else gets triggered by the news when I have to watch it. I do. I find I get great practice with that. He softened. He softened, and we didn't come into an argument. And what we invite you to do in our workshops or our class is to come with something that you want to cultivate in your life, a quality. Like for me, patience, maybe, is a good one, And also, if there's something that really matters to you that you want to help to create an intention so that you can bring it into the world, we help you work with that. Because in leadership embodiment, we work with 3 leadership competencies. One is inclusivity that Elizabeth was explaining, how we include everybody in our personal space instead of setting a barrier or a boundary. The other one is centered listening, which is I'm working on all the time, so that when we're in discussion with somebody, when we're receiving feedback, we don't take it personally. And we really listen when somebody, particularly when we disagree with them. And then the other one is speaking up without aggression. We women are always told that we're aggressive, right? When we assert ourselves. But this is a beautiful way of really standing in your truth and being clear with what it is that you want to bring into the world, even if it's just, going for a walk every day. You can bring anything that you want to work on. And then we also work with difficult conversations. So we teach you a way of dealing with the kind of thing that you just mentioned, Flo, with your friend. How do you deal with somebody like that who doesn't want to play ball? She's putting her earphones on or whatever and not get triggered yourself, right?
Yeah.
So we also don't take ourselves too seriously. We have fun, and yet we are also doing things that matter. So we hope you'll join us. It's December 4th. It goes from 11:30 to 4:30 Eastern Daylight Time. And we are so grateful to Sunray Meditation Society and Peace Village events because they have asked us to present through them. So, I put it in the chat if you have anything, if you have any questions, and I see that, yes, Don Miguel Ruiz, Noel, don't take it personally, one of the 4 agreements. Thank you. Yes. I actually noticed that the other day when I drew out his book from my bookshelf. Thank you. Synchronicity rocks. Thank you for that reminder, Noel. Yeah. These truths, we find them everywhere, don't we? If we really go back to and particularly in indigenous wisdom, particularly in indigenous wisdom. Anybody else?
I would
Um,
just like to share an experience that I had years
Great.
ago. I went to the Center for Creative Leadership in
Uh-huh.
Greensboro, North Carolina. Have any of you been there?
No, but
I've heard of it. Yeah, it's
Oh
great.
my, it was
Is
a
it?
wonderful, life-changing experience for me because it was the moment that my life shifted from a very rational, logical, scientific, left brain approach to a more heart-centered, and I became a spiritual seeker after that. But we worked with change partners. And when we were there, we were putting groups of 3, and us individuals together with a mentor had a chance to respond and encourage and support each other in this leadership program. And that was the first time I really had worked with that type of support. Of course, since then, I've been part of mastermind groups and various other groups that have helped me. But that having a change partners was really amazing. And that was about 30 years ago when I went to that program, and I'm still in touch with one of them. So they
Neat.
become part of you, that connection that we make with people who are committed to supporting us and uplifting us on our journey, so to speak. It's amazing.
It is
It
amazing.
is amazing.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And in this time that we're in, when it's challenging to stay focused and be present to hope and joy and all of the elements that you've spoken to, all of you today, that this practice and this actual visceral sense of inclusion is a powerful way to bring into action what matters to us most. And Olivia and I have been really fortunate to study with Wendy Palmer and to be one of her certified leadership embodiment coaches. It's really transformed our lives. And as she was saying, the life of our spouses. And but it's a new way of also adding to leadership. What if we work through the body to bring it down to earth and be present in a way that helps us to shift ourselves first, and therefore shift the relationship that is challenging to be in, or the conversation that needs to move forward in some way. So we're grateful to be doing this work and sharing it with you.
Yes. And one
I
of the
was wondering
things,
whether you were going to teach us another one. I thought you said you had one other one.
Yeah, I was kind of, Olivia, do you want to try one more?
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Cool. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So if you would take yourself to the news, or a particular issue right now that is existing in the world that particularly triggers you, that you find you want to move in action to in your life, but you're feeling the tension of that. I'd like you to, if we all could just take ourselves into the memory of that and notice how that lands in our body. And just count to 8 and really let yourself turn into the reaction. Notice your reaction to the tension of that. Okay, now shifting out of that. Letting our shoulders roll back, our arms turn up, dropping our chin towards our neck a little bit. Inhaling up, feeling the length up our back spine to the top of our heads. Exhale down. Allowing the spiral breath to root us right into the earth. Inhale back up. Feeling an uplift. Exhaling. Softening and settling our chest, our heart to our core. One more time. Really clearing and cleansing the tension. Exhale. Thinking of an image in nature of someone who makes you smile. Feel that first in your body. Extend it now to the outer edges of your body, to the space that connects us all here on this call. To the sides of us, extend it out to include each other. Behind us, extend it out to include each other. Above our heads, to extend us out into the universe, and beneath our feet. Asking ourselves, what if I had a little more peace in my being right now? What would that feel like? Notice. Allow. Extend it to each other in this porous way, including each other all the way out to the place in the world where this strife, this trigger has had us reacting, all the way to include that conflict, that issue. Rotating our awareness around this huge porous place of resource that we can draw on. Imagining mentors, teachers, spiritual guides, archetypes, images from nature, something we deeply connect to. Have those images at your back energetic field and lean into them, drawing on their support, especially when you're not feeling 100%. Let them be the wind at your back when you move forward into the world with this sense of embodied peace. Bring back that thought that we had originally and notice how you respond from this 4-part centering responsive place. If anyone would like to speak to this before we move on, Olivia, if you'd like to speak to it.
I just feel myself more spacious.
Yeah.
I feel myself softer and more inclusive. And this is what I've heard Louise describe when she's been under very dangerous situations. And before we close, I'd love to share something that happened to her that she shares with us, and how peace is a different vibration. It's a different frequency that can really affect the world around us in very dangerous situations. But I want to also give people a chance to share.
If anyone would like to join in and turn on your mic and your video, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, it'd be great to see your faces.
Yeah, if everybody'd like to turn on, that'd be great.
Sandy, it'd be great to see you too before I introduce you for next week.
I'd certainly like to share what came to mind. Was on the news the night before last. Excuse me. They showed a group of women who have a beautiful, magnificent orchestra in Afghanistan.
Oh, wow.
And you may be aware of them, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And since the change has happened in Afghanistan, they're shut down now. And they had to even destroy their instruments in protection of themselves.
Wow.
And so what happened to me was, as soon as I saw that, I just couldn't stop tears. They were just so huge. And when you then took us into a place in nature, what came to mind immediately for me were the mother trees. I love being in the forest. And the mother trees in the forest that protect the forest that have been discovered most recently came to mind, and I couldn't believe the feeling of hope, of possibility in this most terrible situation for these women. To make it a little lighter, the night after that, they did say that the man who is directing them and other parts of the orchestra where there are men is getting them out. There are still 100 women there, and those are the women that I was wrapping my arms.
Wow. Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Janice.
Thank you for sharing that, Janice.
Yeah. Carol, nice to see you. I'm glad you joined us. And Sheila.
I know there's a couple others that are trying to
And
turn their
Bonnie.
video on. I don't know. There's Flo, and Pamela wanted to turn her video on. And I was asking, what about children? Do you teach this to children? Did you teach it to your own children?
Yes. In fact,
Yes.
yes. Our son, Ethan, ever since he had really struggled with learning issues at a very young age, Olivia knows him well too, he would begin to moderate his sensory difficulties and could bring himself present, noticing his own self-criticism. He could basically bring himself back and embody. And then he practices it all the time. In fact, he's training for a marathon. And he said to us a couple of days ago, when he gets to the 17th mile, which I can't even fathom doing, he's at the 17th mile and his body wants to break, and he centers and he shifts his posture, he pauses, he roots his breath, he extends himself, and he shapes there's something that we do work with where we actually go from the circle shape to shape ourselves into a wedge shape, and he practices that while he's running, and it really helps. And he practices the resource of the space, as what Janice was talking about with nature. He resources that, and he says it really gives him this wind at his back when he doesn't have the physical energy anymore. So, but I also work a lot with kids. I work with a lot in the school systems, and I've been doing a little more online with them.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Livia?
That's good to hear it's in the school system.
Yes, we're getting back into that. It was the flavor of the hour, and administration was really interested. Teachers were really interested. And then I've been brought in spontaneously with teams, but with theater programs, and then with the theater and the language programs around anxiety of learning a new language, around the issues of high school kids and younger kids.
Right.
So there's been lots of different venues, and it's powerful. Of course, we match with a lot more movement, and there's a little less stillness
Yeah.
because of the age. So we work with matching them, right, Olivia, to their developmental stages as much as we can.
Definitely, yeah. And when I've taught, dance movement therapists, graduate students that are or musicians that have performance anxiety or anything, different stages and ages, I've taught this, and it makes such a difference, because they feel that they have some control. Or people with panic attacks, I was a psychotherapist, a psychologist for many years. So I worked a lot with just helping people and get in touch with, as you were saying, I think it was Stephanie and Pamela, you were saying how we don't notice our body. And as a Feldenkrais practitioner, what I have done for years is help people with their sensory motor kinesthetic learning, so that I help them know what they don't know that they know, And I think that this is really any way that we can get kids to shift their vibration. I mean, it really is this kind of frequency or vibration that Jennifer talks about a lot in our morning meditation group, right? And I wanted to just say that I think that the more we practice with these little things, like, when you lose like this week, I was all ready to go and meet with somebody, and my husband drove off with my keys, so I didn't have a car. So I went like 0 to 100 again, thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I centered, and I realized that actually he'd done me a favor, because I'm writing a book and I had to stay put and just not go anywhere. But I wouldn't have gotten there if I hadn't centered. So it shifts the neurophysiology of our brain. When we center, instead of being stuck in the amygdala in that sort of loop that we're going with, those deep grooves that you were talking about, Pamela, of our habit, we shift to the executive brain, where with our breathing and with our inclusiveness, and particularly the smile, because when we smile, we're producing oxytocin, which is the connecting hormone that mothers use when they're smiling at their infants. So when we smile and we let our lips go up the way Elizabeth was telling us to do, then we're shifting from cortisol to oxytocin. So that can be a really tricky way to, almost in spite of yourself, shift to that more skillful part of ourselves. And also it's nicer to smile too, if you can. So Sheila, were you going to say something?
There's some wonderful comments there in the chat.
Yes, I
Yeah.
was just noticing. Would you like to read them?
Yes, Janice. At a trauma conference yesterday, Bessel van der Kolk, yes, I know well, emphasized teaching children self-regulation
Right.
ought to be on the curriculum in every class at every grade level, reading, writing, arithmetic, and self-regulation.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. That's
And
my
Pamela,
vision.
Pamela said, I felt as if I responded with greater compassion and understanding, less judgment and impatience for those trapped in victimhood. Interesting. Yeah, we can get really caught in that victimhood, can't we? Victimology, as Carolyn Mays calls it. I
She
can't
also
hear you,
had some
Noah.
more wisdom there. She says it's an excellent way to prevent and respond to bullying.
Yes.
Aha.
Good point.
Yes, great point.
Mhm. Oh,
So one of the things that we were talking about meditation, I mean, there are these different ways that we shift our brain. And one of the things that happened with a friend of mine that is another Sunray community member, Janice Kahn, she was teaching peace studies in a classroom, in a Montessori classroom. And she described what happened because she realized when she went there that she was going to teach them all about the way that Cherokees teach peace through peace villages. And then she realized that she had to change her lesson plan, which often happens, right? When you're in the middle of something. And what she did is she got the kids to agree to try meditation because the kids themselves realized, and they were 10 to 12-year-olds, something like that, in a Montessori classroom. And they realized they were interrupting each other and that it was very disquieting. And so she said, this is how she describes what happened. And I think it really speaks to that vibration that we're talking about, that frequency. We hadn't realized it, but usually when we were meditating, the room suddenly got incredibly quiet. It wasn't just a no sound kind of quiet, it was something else. Checking in with each other later, we realized that this kind of quiet felt really good to a lot of us. We hadn't realized it, but usually when we were meditating, in the background, we could hear the scratching of the rodents, the whirring of the gerbil's equipment, a call or fluttering from the bird. On this day, we realized that we had created together a peace so palpable that every life form in the room had responded to it by joining us. Everyone had gotten calm. In that way, the animals helped us understand the meaning and the power of that deep stillness we experienced as peace.
Oh, it's beautiful.
beautiful.
That's beautiful.
So there are the kids, right? Out of the mouth of babes, Noel and Elizabeth. Yeah, the children.
Wonderful.
I'm gonna try to incorporate this with my grandkids, see how that goes.
Oh, let us know, Flo. That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
Flo has wonderful grandkids. How old are Sammy and your little guy?
Jack
Jeff?
will be 2 next month and
Ah.
Sammy will be 5 in February.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
you
let us
know,
know how it goes.
you can see when they lose it, when they're starting to lose it. So if you can back that down somehow, that would be just wonderful.
Yeah.
Just playing with breath with them and you just modeling it and playing with movement and exhaling and doing the 4-part centering. It's really neat when they begin to notice, as Olivia was saying, the meditation, they begin to really notice it. So you,
When they start getting screechy,
Yeah.
I have them do
Yeah.
like vowels like ah,
Yes.
ooh, and they always chime in. I mean, they have never said, "What are you
Cool.
doing?" I just start and they're chiming
Cool.
in. So it can really change what's going on.
that's cool.
Can change the
When you
frequency.
remember it. That's why
Yeah.
I have to remember to use these kind of things in the situations where they're kind of getting chaotic and I got to bring them back down because I have a lot of tools, but sometimes I need it to be automatic for it to come. So I need more practice.
Well, one of the things that we do in our workshop is we help you to develop a kind of muscle. And then we give you a way that you can practice it after the workshop so that you can, for example, every time I go through a doorway, I center. And
Oh.
I had to, and I did that for a while. And I just made myself do it whenever I went through a doorway, or when I was coming home, when I was driving home from work, before I went in the front door, I would center. So if you could just have a place in your day or in your home where you decide, I'm just going to center, I'm going to breathe up the back, exhale down the front, think of something that makes me smile, expand my bubble out into all the corners of the room and above and below, everywhere, including my everything, and then invite equality. And calm is a good one, or ease.
Or peace.
And feel your body's response, because when we're really curious and we really ask our body, what would it be like if I had a little more ease in my being right now? And then don't jump over it, but really sense your body, like it may settle, or you may take a breath, or you may have an image or something. Yeah.